Chainer, Nightmare Adept versus Sygg River Cutthroat. Been meaning to build this one, along with a million other decks for the longest time. That's not a good start, is it? We'll have to mulligan that. That isn't superb, but we can go for Vamp Tutor for another land if we need to, so we'll keep that. And I can't see we're going to get much use out of Bloodghast. We might get into the Skull Clamp, but we'll just throw the Bloodghast away. Want to keep hold of Vandal Blast just in case our opponent gets a turn 1 Sol Ring. They do not, fortunately for us, so we'll keep hold of our Vandal Blast. We'll just see if we manage to draw into mana next turn. If not, then I think we're going to have to go for Vampiric Tutor. And there's a Vampiric Tutor from our opponent. I don't know how likely it is that our opponent is going to go for a Sol Ring because they usually want to get down their commander straight away. But apparently not. That is a Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and that is basically an evasive 2-power creature. How much damage does this need to see? We need to lose 3 or more life for that to be relevant. As much as I'd like to see more coloured mana, I think going in for Ancient Tomb here is pretty good. We can go for the Merciless Executioner, and then go for Solemn after that. A Bojuka Bog onto us, and that gets rid of our Merciless Executioner. That might actually be relevant this game. And then out comes Sygg. We get into another land. That's good. Let's just go for a Badlands with that. And then I think just to help get us ahead, we'll go for the Solemn Simulacrum. And then we can look at our commander next turn. Or we could even go for Urabrask next turn. We lost 3 life that turn, thanks to the Ancient Tomb and the Polluted Delta, so Sygg saw that we lost that 3 life and drew a card. And then Sygg coming in at us, we will block with the Solemn because we don't mind losing it. Tapping and untapping a lot of lands for a while and then going for Portent. Look at the top 3 cards of a target player's library and put them back in any order. You can make them shuffle and then draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. They've targeted themselves with that. And now holding up 3 mana. Alright, Urborg is really good because we're not going to have to put too much life into Ancient Tomb now. Let's try and tempt our opponent with some counter magic here. Make our opponent's creatures come into play tapped, which means that we can start getting some damage onto our opponent. Let's just leave the Solemn back just in case. Like I said before, we don't mind blocking with Solemn if our opponent's going to get rid of it with an equipment or something like that. But any other creatures our opponent plays, even if they do get haste onto the board, the creatures are going to come in tapped, so they can't swing in either way. A True Name Nemesis. That is a very difficult one for us to play around. And then a Demonic Tutor. Wow, our opponent had some good cards on top there. And it's a good thing our opponent got rid of the Merciless Executioner. Just abusing that is pretty much the only way we can get rid of True Name Nemesis. Or a board wipe would do it. Alright, now we're getting into nothing but lands, unfortunately. So our opponent's going to be able to trigger their Sygg every turn if they can get that True Name Nemesis through, which they will be able to. We'll get our commander down. And there's nothing to reanimate, unfortunately, so let's just go in with the Urabrask and the Solemn. And they can just block with the Sygg anyway, block that Solemn, so actually no point swinging in with that. At least with us playing off the top with a bunch of mana in play, means that we can pretty much hardcast anything we draw into. It's just a case of actually drawing into that stuff now. Going in with True Name Nemesis, which has protection from us, meaning that we can't block the True Name Nemesis. And then Bloodchief Ascension, that's easily going to get counters on it as well, thanks to this. This is a very powerful creature. So we are strapped for time now. We need to start drawing better than this. Alright, Dragon Mage is a means of wheeling our hand, isn't it? Is our opponent going to counter it, is the question. We'll get the Command Beacon down. And then Dragon Mage is going to have haste thanks to Urabrask, but just in case our opponent gets rid of this, I think they point removal at Dragon Mage actually, but just in case, we'll use Chainer's ability. We'll discard the Dragon Mage, and then we can cast the Dragon Mage from our graveyard, and that means Chainer will give the Dragon haste. We cast our Dragon Mage and hope for no counter magic, and it might be our opponent does have counters, but they don't mind a wheel here. We'll soon find out if we hit our opponent with the Dragon Mage. Instead of the Solemn, let's swing in with Sygg this time. Actually, we can swing in with everything, can't we? Because we're losing 3 life next turn either way. So I don't think an extra point of damage from Sygg matters. Now let's see what the plan is from our opponent. And a Notion Thief in response to that, so yeah, that is not good for us. All that means is that we are going to discard our Vandal Blast and feed 14 cards to our opponent. So that is probably this game over and done with. They had a Creeping Tar Pit, Cyclonic Rift, and a Ninja of the Deep Hours. Yeah, that's probably us out of this game now. Although we could get into removal for Notion Thief and then force another wheel off of the Dragon Mage, but if our opponent doesn't want us to hit them with Dragon Mage, I imagine they've got cards in hand to keep us from doing so now. Eventually deciding to swing in with Notion Thief, so they clearly want to hold back the True Name Nemesis for blocking, which might be telling of some of the cards that are in their hand. I think it's clear that they're not going for a board wipe. Alright, and then Ninjutsu for Mistblade Shinobi. You can return a creature that player controls to its owner's hand. We've got haste, so it doesn't really matter what our opponent does here. They either get rid of both Chainer and Urabrask, or we've got haste on that Dragon Mage again next turn. Alright, well there's the Urabrask. Psionic Blast, 4 damage to that. And then a Phyrexian Revoker. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cannot be activated, so they have indeed dealt with both Chainer and Urabrask now. So that means Dragon Mage will not have haste. They do have to discard down to hand size, so yeah, it looks like they're just getting rid of a bunch of lands. We have not drawn too well this game. So let's just get down the Bloodstained Mire, and we will also get out our Dragon Mage, and we'll see if our opponent has any answers for it, because we will definitely swing in with that next turn. Getting down a Tetsuko. We use that in... what do we use that in? Oh yeah, in the Ninja Tribal deck in Yuriko. Very powerful card for only 2 mana, making all of this stuff unblockable, which means they can get 4 points of damage on us to trigger Sygg and the Bloodchief Ascension, and leave the True Name Nemesis back as a blocker. Then going for Ninjutsu again, and the Sakashima Student comes down as a copy of something. It comes down as a copy of the Mistblade Shinobi, which will bounce our stuff, and we really need removal for that Phyrexian Revoker at this point, which I'm assuming is going to come down again now, and probably name Chainer again. They bounce that for the Ninjutsu, by the way. Yep, naming Chainer again. Yeah, we're just drawing into mana, so there is nothing we're going to do this game, I don't think. Let's replay yet again the Dragon Mage, and it doesn't get countered luckily, so it's just a case of hoping that it sticks around this time. A Smuggler's Copter for our opponent, and deciding to swing in with everything now, so we might be seeing a board wipe here. We can't block any of that because of the Tetsuko, which means that the Mistblade Shinobi, both of them trigger, bounce both of our things. Oh, they didn't bounce the Solemn. Is this a May ability? You may bounce one, and they don't want us to get another land with Solemn Simulacrum. I think that is the least of our concerns currently. Okay, Cathartic Reunion. Let's see about a Cathartic Reunion. I'm just going to put the life into Beseju. We will discard both of these cards to draw 3. That will trigger the Bloodchief Ascension. And then Cathartic Reunion hits the bin, which triggers Cathartic Reunion as well. We can't use Playcrafter because that will go into the graveyard and we will be drained to death. So all we can do here is go for Rune-Scarred Demon, which will not win us the game, unfortunately. So we'll just play it out and give our opponent every opportunity to swing in for the victory. Just grab ourselves a Damnation for the fun of it, and pass straight over to our opponent. We've tapped out, showing our opponent we don't have anything. I don't see what we do against all this for only 1 mana, but we'll show our opponent we don't have anything. And they are deciding to cast spells for some reason, so we will just concede. Wanted to give my opponent the opportunity to swing in for the victory there, but they're playing it very cautiously. So it's good game to our opponent, and revealing their hand as well. Yeah, good game to our opponent. That's a very good Sygg River Cutthroat deck by the looks of it. And I would like to build one of my own at some point. I'm hoping that True Name Nemesis has come down in price since I last owned it. I actually owned it back in the day when it came out, back when you could get precons on Magic Online. And I sold it because I never used it. So hopefully it's come down in price since then. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this Chainer Nightmare Adept video. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.